formal verification was always computationally infeasible, and it was like, breaking a what's it saying, like a butterfly on a wheel. And then suddenly with smart contracts, the programs were small enough that it was feasible, and they were valuable enough that it was worth doing. And so now, you have Certora, and you have all these, tools to try to do formal verification. Do you feel that has been working, or I mean, is that a contributing factor as well in your view?
I think so.
Yeah. So, okay. So Ethereum network states, so you've got the longevity parts, you've got the governance parts. So coming back to that, what did you learn for the last 2-ish years of social experiments?
So I think, this whole network state movement, and then, the free cities movement and all of these things that came before it, they, started from a particular set of ideas. And then, when a set of ideas kind of collides with reality, there's like the question of, what is the portion that really sticks, right? And the thing that I've found is, it feels like there are individual zoo nodes that are turning into persistent product market fit. I believe Edge is already basically break even at least. And, to me, some of the Frontier Towers, getting there already, as I understand, and the others make sense from that perspective. But then, the questions that are always in the back of my mind, right, is one is there's always been this long-running emphasis on getting some kind of government autonomy, and a lot of the time, getting that that product market fit, at least in the short term, it feels like that's a thing that's hard to ask for, and it has a lower immediate value, and so we're seeing people just not ask for it so far.
Well,
right?
So there is, I think the new Solana economic zones and so on are one step towards that, because they've got a deal with Kazakhstan and whatnot. So I think we're finally starting to see some, and then obviously Prospera got the mini circle jurisdiction. So I think there are some fruitful moves. There's Palau has the RNS.id, which actually you got, I think, right? So there's some fruitful moves towards getting jurisdictions to do novel things. Would you?
Right. Yeah, I mean, what would you say, out of all of those as a type of jurisdictional property that's both really meaningful and at the same time is actually pragmatically valuable for people?
Definitely mini circle, or rather, here's why. So the Prospera story was they changed the law. They got a biotech-free zone. Somebody set up mini circle. Various people invested. Then there was a treatment that Patrick Friedman, who spoke, has used, and he really. I'm only talking about their self-report, right? So Patrick's self-report was really good. Farb Nevy's self-report was really good. I'm not making any medical claims, just saying that. And then actually Bezos saw Farb Nevy's tweet and interacted with it and so on, because he is on the lookout for the things that money can't buy, right? And so this thing that radically, so that's what I consider going all the way, right? From change the law, start the company, make the treatment, give the treatment, have it bubble up to the, levels, right? That is something I consider a success. It's like a needle where it's only N of 1 or N of 2 that's gone all the way through, but it's a little clue as to what could happen if we could increase that. That's my, I think, best case study right now.
I mean, I can actually give an answer from a totally different area. Immigration and visas.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of this economic research that says that, specifically immigration restriction is the one type of government regulation that actually prevents the most economic activity. And
this is a Brian Kaplan style argument.
Yeah, exactly.
I disagree with that, but I'll explain. But go give.
Yeah, but the usual counter argument is basically there's all of these people coming from all these places around the world, and we don't know who they are and we don't trust them, right? And the synthesis to me is basically that the idea that governments could regulate groups rather than individuals, right? Basically that if you have a group, and we could call it a network state, we could call it something else, and then that group acquires a reputation for doing a good job of containing people who are high-quality contributors, who are not likely to go commit crimes, who are not likely to go run off into the forest and so on, then, like, from the perspective of a government's own interests, it's pragmatic for them to just let people from that group come, because, you know, they're at the, like, if you already offer visa-free to, you know, like, people from, you know, like, some low-income European country, like, realistically, you're already at least as low risk as that, right? So I think, especially in the age of, you know, like, things like the whole, you know, like, H-1B situation, like, we need to figure out, like, you know, new solutions to that kind of problem. And I think, like, something group level is, like, intuitively really feels right. And
yeah, so I think, let me give a quick argument against open borders and then tentatively in the digital way. So the argument against is just, you don't have open borders for your house, for your wallet, for anything that you really care about. You don't just allow anybody to come in there. So you know, if there's a bunch of people trampling through your living room, you'd say, you know, this, and that extends to your apartment and this, that, the other out. And so that's the argument for controlling some degree of in-migration. With that said, in the digital world, like Facebook, you know, Reddit or what have you, all these platforms, all the crypto platforms want everybody to become a user eventually, right?
Yeah.
So the difference, why is there a difference? And I'd say in the digital realm, state capacity can scale almost independently of the number of people who are coming through, right? I mean, yes, there's blockchain scalability and so on and so forth, but it's not like the ability of Facebook to, you know, deal with malware, spam, scams, people attacking each other. That only very slowly scales with the population, right? So they can actually admit enormous millions, billions of people and govern them with on the software side. And the interesting question is how much that scales. And I think until that scales outside of software, you couldn't do that in the physical world. Maybe one wouldn't want to.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there has to be some kind of synthesis, right? And I think the whole point of this kind of online to offline thing that to me is at the core of this movement, right, is that if your function is basically, you know, like you want to accept some number of people and you have some risk function, then there are far better ways of making the decision of who than just basically discriminating based on which country someone comes from, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
that's like a very low bandwidth signal, right?
It's like during COVID, they were trying to block borders in the U.S. based on like Rhode Island versus New York or something like that, which is very, very, very poor as a signal.
Yeah, and I think in general, right, like there's going to be a lot of these situations where like individuals wants to do various things, companies wants to do various things, and then governments are like both interested, but then you know, they have their own risk calculation. And if you have some kind of entity in the middle that's like basically able to acquire a reputation for saying, you know, like these are people that we think are reasonably low risk, right? Like it feels like something that's actually pragmatic from both sides.
Yeah, so I do agree. It's funny because on the one hand, I'd say I think like what mini circle is something humans have never done before, whereas immigrations, visas are something people have done. On the other hand, I think B might be a prerequisite for A because being able to set up an area where you can bring smart people from all over is becoming more and more and more valuable as a lot of places become more and more nationalist and what have you, right? So I'd agree with you there. There are a bunch of countries doing digital nomad visas though. And a lot of these small countries, have you observed this? You know, I was talking about this with a few other folks. Small countries are more pro-crypto and more pro, in general. Have you found that?
I think so.
Do you have a thesis? I mean, I have a thesis on why, but I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a large country, then you're big enough to where you think that you stand a chance of controlling the stack. If you're a small country, you don't, right? And so I think the open stack is like that is the alternative that makes sense for you.
That's right, and that's why I think network states, startup societies can work with small states and actually strengthen them. You can bring talent, you bring capital there. I mean, then whenever you go, like all the zoos probably bring quite a lot of investment money to their local thing, or they could eventually over time. At least DevCon did it not? Yeah?
It did.
Yeah. So that shows like this cloud entities bring a lot of capital locally. So there's a positive sum trade to be had potentially.
Exactly. Yeah. So one other thing that's like always interested me about the network state concept is it's not just about innovation in jurisdictional properties. It's also about innovation in culture.
Yep.
Right. And to me, that's also at the core of the like I think the response to like, are we just inventing co-working spaces and accelerators?
I have a one-liner. I have two one-liners on that. Okay, but that's not one-liner. It's a two-liner, but fine. Okay. So first is why is like a startup site network state? Why is it not just co-working? Because community is about connectivity, and the thing that differentiates a startup society from a Starbucks is if you put on your augmented reality glasses, everybody in a startup society would have edges between them because that's a community of friends, and all the people at the Starbucks would be a community of strangers. It might be friendly, cordial strangers, but strangers nonetheless, right? So that, I think, is the difference. Community means connectivity, and a lot of people use the word community to mean like oak benches and, go ahead.
It's interesting you say that, because that's like exactly a response I gave when someone asked me about the Estonia e-residency thing, right? Because like I think there are a lot of these beautiful kind of idealistic ideals there of like, hey, we are going to become a digital nation.
It was actually one of the first 3 Estonian e-residents along with
and it's like it's cool.
Like
it's a cool thing, and it's even a useful thing, right? There's a lot of like, for example, like Chinese people for whom it's an excellent way of getting like European e-banking.
Right.
But then like to me, ultimately, a company is it's a hub and spoke thing. It's a single entity with relationships to each person.
Exactly.
And a community is people who all do things for each other.
And choose to. Exactly. That's right. So that was my first. And then on the second one, because you said how do you know it's just not just co-working and so on. So like cultural innovation is there's usually there's something you're doing where you're thinking it's good and the rest of the world thinks it's bad, right? And so like, I'm not saying to be controversial for the sake of it, minimum necessary controversy, but minimum necessary controversy if you need to do something good, then, so like a co-working space isn't quote controversial in that sense, right? So I think those would be the two answers, connectivity and some small degree of controversy.
Right, yeah, or sometimes, like something where you think that it's good, but then, like other people just kind of don't care or not interested, right?
Yeah, it's a statement as a service.
Exactly. I mean, even, like I think like Brian Johnson is a good example of this, right? And like he has a lot of these, like longevity ideas, and like sometimes, like you can't just go one step forward and, like you can't just make what you want happen through a single isolated product that makes sense in the context of everyone's pre-existing lifestyles. And like to his credit, he has made versions of that, and like his powders are good, right? But like sometimes, like you also have to go deep, right?
Yeah.
And and actually, like I think this is also kind of my thinking in the context of like some of these zoo nodes. It's like something that a lot of them wants to do as well, right? They want to go deep on what I call DX technologies, which includes cryptography. It includes blockchain things. It also includes a lot of health. Actually, so this thing I have over here, this is a fun gadget. Actually, a group that we give grants to out of Balvi funds. That it's a clean air Tamagotchi. So it's basically a kind of Tamagotchi style game where, but it's attached to air quality monitors. And so here, you have the CO2 meter, you have PM 2.5, and so this is basically, a way of measuring, like how good this room is in terms of, like how healthy the air is, people not getting sick, and so on. And so, like effectively, we're like actually bringing the dream of, the decentralized FDA thing.
Exactly. I was going to get there. That's
exactly.
Right. Like basically these sensors, because ultimately regulation is information. Like I say, they're giving star ratings on, the quality of an actor, and they're banning bad actors.